Hi.
Hi there. So will you just let me know? I think it's time to start. Should I just go ahead?
Yes, go ahead and start, and then I will start recording. You are good to go.
Okay, I didn't realize we are recording this.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to present at the Epilepsy Awareness Day on behalf of the Children's Hospital of Colorado. And the title of my talk is Excellence at Every Level. My name is Charuta Joshi, and I am the epilepsy team lead. I am also the director of the Epilepsy Fellowship Program and the director of Outreach Services. I am intimately aware of everything that is great about our program, and I am really, really excited to share it with all of you. So let's move slides here. So therefore, to start, our mission is to improve the health of children through the provision of high quality, coordinated programs of patient care, education, research, and advocacy. Our vision is child health, reimagined, realized. So therefore, what would a parent of a child with epilepsy want to know about our program? And putting myself in somebody's shoes, what would I want to know if my child were to have seizures or epilepsy and I were to approach a hospital or a physician group? One of the first questions that all of us should ask ourselves is, how good are these doctors? How good is the hospital they work in? What is the support staff like? What is the national or the international footprint in clinical work from this group of people? And what is the national or international footprint in the research world from this group? So let's take a quick look at who are our people. This is the atrium when you enter into the Children's Hospital, and we are a group of 9 board-certified epileptologists at the main campus. And you are seeing a picture of the atrium in the main campus at Anschutz Medical Center. We do have 3 epileptologists in our Colorado Springs Hospital as well. At the main campus, we have 5 epilepsy advanced practice providers, also called as APPs. We have 3 dedicated epilepsy neurosurgeons, 3 dedicated epilepsy neuropsychologists. And I do not want to gloat, but as I understand, this is quite a bit. But we do have 2 specialized neurology/epilepsy genetic counselors within our team. And that is a huge bonus to us and makes us pretty strong at genetic workup as well as genetic management in epilepsy. So if one were to ask, how good are these physicians? How good are the doctors? And it is very easy to Google any one of us. And in a rating of 1 to 5, the median rating for most of us is 4.8. I just looked it up today. Now, normally I do not look up these numbers. The range is 4.2 to 4.9. If one had to ask, what is the level of clinical excellence? So we talked initially about who are these people. Now let's answer the question of what is the hospital like? The Children's Hospital of Colorado was ranked number 10 in the US News and World Report in neurology and neurosurgery, and number 6 overall. In 2018, we performed more than 5,000 standard and prolonged EEG studies. We had more than 2,000 new patient visits for epilepsy. Ours is the only American Board of Registration of Electroencephalography and Evoked Potential Technologists, meaning ABRET, accredited pediatric EEG lab in the state of Colorado. What are surgical options that are available for patients that come to our hospital? These include focal resection, hemispherotomy, which is a broader resection, corpus callosotomy, which means a disconnection of the 2 hemispheres. We also have the ROSA, or a robot-assisted stereo EEG, for patients that do not require a big resection, or if the resection area includes eloquent cortex, we can do laser ablation. We also have done several responsive neurostimulation, which is the RNS technology. We also have VNS, and we are going to start DBS, or the deep brain stimulation program. We have the ability to perform WADA, SPECT, functional MRI, magnetoencephalography MEG, 3T MRI with diffusion tensor imaging, as well as morphometric analysis, or MAP, using MRI technology for cortical thickness. What do the case log numbers look like? Despite the fact that in 2019, COVID appended all plans of all sorts, if you compare 2018 through 2019 and 2020, our total case log as far as the inpatient and the outpatient EEG numbers remains the same, around 5,000 per year. What went down was elective surgeries. As you can see on the right side here, in 2018, we performed 17 stereo EEGs. In 2019, we did 13 with one grid. In 2020, when the hospital was closed and elective surgical procedures were postponed, in addition to the fact that people were really worried and postponing their procedures, we did 10. So far, we have done 6 stereo EEGs. I should remind the audience that a lot of our pre-surgical workup that leads to surgery in terms of getting outpatient MRI or the MEG scan or the SPECT scan was also delayed during the COVID pandemic. So then coming back to, we asked ourselves, who are these people? Then we asked ourselves, what is the hospital like? What is the support staff like? We have an absolutely wonderful support staff in our administrative offices, where we take pride in telling others that we are different. We hold our jobs with great pride. We would want to do everything possible to make children's health better, which is our motto and which is what we live by. We have several subspecialty as well as multidisciplinary clinics that are very well supported. These include the Rett syndrome clinic, CDKL5 clinic, FOXG1 clinic. We have been recognized as a center of excellence by the International CDKL5 Foundation, as well as the Rett syndrome. We have a special clinic for Dravet syndrome. As you can see, you see Dr. Kelly Knupp, who is what we call the Dravet queen. We have neurogenetics clinic. We have a tuberous sclerosis clinic and are a center of tuberous sclerosis excellence. We have a neurofibromatosis clinic, ketogenic diet clinic, epilepsy surgery multidisciplinary clinic, new onset epilepsy clinic, non-epileptic spells clinic, and so many more. I would like to point out that our hospital has made a commitment to a holistic development of precision medicine, from diagnosis to treatment, that we believe will have a substantial impact on epilepsy in the years to come. And to that end, we have actually set up a precision medicine division, I should say, which is headed by Dr. Scott Demarest. And for those with the most difficult of all epilepsies, those patients that have developmental and epileptic encephalopathies, like Rett and Rett-related disorders. This includes patients that have been diagnosed with Rett syndrome and also specific genetic abnormalities, including the MECP2 duplication syndrome, FOXG1-related disorders, CDKL5 deficiency disorders. Dr. Benke is our medical director for the same. We have special clinics or clinics where patients with Batten disease and neurodegenerative disorders are seen, with Dr. Demarest and Dr. Santucci leading that clinic. We have an Angelman and a duplication 15q clinic, which is led by Dr. Jessica Dewis and Diana Wally, who is the co-director. Additionally, we are a Pitt Hopkins Center of Excellence. We also have clinics where SETB1 related disorders are managed and looked at. We have a neurogenetics management multidisciplinary clinic that serves the 8P related disorders, Ring 14, SLC 6A1, STXBP1, which will start January 2022. Additionally, neurogenetics diagnostic clinic to help identify potential genetic causes of epilepsy. So for those patients who have an unknown and where we want to do a deep dive into finding out what could be the presumed genetic diagnosis here, we have that clinic. Additionally, we have a registry for GRIN disorders and a center of excellence coming soon with Dr. Benke and Dr. Park, who will head that endeavor. What does the research footprint look like? At last count, we had at least 15 active research clinical trials with many more to come. These deal with novel anti-seizure medications and new pharmacology, in addition also to genetic studies. In addition, we are involved with tissue studies of focal cortical dysplasia from epilepsy surgery. We have trials ongoing for the treatment and the study of ESES. Additionally, we do research with functional connectivity-based epilepsy networks and their implications for surgery and cognition. We have a group of nationally as well as internationally funded researchers, including Drs. Demarest, Knapp, Wally, Park, Baer, and Alexander. What about education? As for any big institution, the three pillars of that institution are service, education, research. I spoke to you a little bit about research, and let's talk about education. We actually hire 2 epilepsy fellows each year. They rotate through continuous EEG, epilepsy monitoring unit rotations, clinics, as well as adult neurology. What are deliverables that are expected? We deliver quality care. We have our graduates rotate through epilepsy surgery conference, multidisciplinary meetings. There is weekly EMU review of all patients that were admitted in the week prior. All our trainees need to have and own a research or a quality improvement project. There are monthly surgical journal club presentations. There is always a documentation of case log to make sure that they have enough of a rich experience of a variety of cases. In addition, we also make sure that we are following national trends and standards by getting them to complete the AES Fellows core curriculum online within the first 5 months of their training. Our fellows undergo an intensive EEG education bootcamp in the first month or so of their starting fellowship. This includes 3 hours of didactic teaching from all of us on the first Monday in the first month. This is actually not an EEG or a neurophysiology fellowship, and therefore, because it is EEG specific, or rather I should say epilepsy specific, we give them the EEG education that they might need during the bootcamp. Additionally, because we have so many specialists that are excellent at what they do, the rest of the year we give them topics that will help them practically move on as they grow within our system and also when they were to go outside. There is research mentorship available in a variety of fields. We expose our fellows to high patient volumes as well as complex patients, and this is a very collegial and a very well-run department that they are coming to. Is there any other teaching other than that of fellows? Absolutely. We do seizure safety school, which is teaching to parents that is led by our advanced practice provider, Chelsea Stillman. There is also teaching in the community, which is done by our RNs. In addition, there is teaching of peers, which includes teaching of MDs, teaching of APPs, teaching of RNs within the hospital itself. This allows us to make sure that everybody is practicing at the top of their scope and everybody is very well aware about what is going on and is current in how we practice medicine. Now I shall introduce you to each one of our epileptology team at the main campus. Dr. Kelly Knapp graduated from New York Presbyterian Hospital, and she did her child neurology as well as epilepsy fellowship there. She is our interim division chief. She is also the Associate Director of Research at the Neurosciences Institute. Her chief interests are in Dravet syndrome, in infantile spasms, as well as in developmental and epileptic encephalopathy. Dr. Susan Ko did her children's neurology or child neurology from Children's Hospital, LA, and then did the epilepsy fellowship at Miami Children's Hospital. She is excellent at clinical epilepsy and is also the medical director for our group, in addition to being a director of the TS, it should say clinic, not lab. Dr. Kristen Park is the Associate Program Director for the Epilepsy Fellowship. She did her pediatric neurology at Children's Hospital, Philadelphia, and then did her epilepsy fellowship at Children's Memorial Hospital, Chicago. Her chief interests are in the genetic causes of epilepsy, developmental malformations, and developmental disability. She is going to be running trials on KCNQ2 as well as GRIN. I mentioned Dr. Scott Demarest earlier. He did his pediatric neurology at Children's National Medical Center, Washington, and then did pediatric epilepsy at Children's Hospital, Colorado, which is the CHCO. He is the director of precision medicine at our hospital and is chiefly interested in the impact of genetics on patients' unique epilepsy. He is interested in genotype-phenotype correlations, as well as gene discovery for presumed genetic epilepsies. Dr. Eschbach graduated from Colorado and is a Coloradan. She is the director of our EMU, EEG, as well as the intraoperative monitoring lab. Her chief interests are neonatal epilepsy, as well as a devastating condition called new onset refractory status epilepticus, of which FIRES or febrile infection-related epilepsy syndrome is a subset. Dr. Joshua Baer finished pediatric neurology at UCSF and did a pediatric epilepsy fellowship at Children's Hospital. He is very interested in functional MRI, magnetoencephalography, MEG, and then looking at the connectivity interplay of EEG and cognition. He is responsible for the network analysis / functional analysis prior to epilepsy surgery that we have our patients go through when they undergo a MEG scan. Dr. Diana Wally came to us from Children's Hospital, Philadelphia, where she did her epilepsy training. She is very interested in global health and currently has a grant to start international clinics. In addition, she is the co-director of the Angelman Syndrome Clinic and also is interested in doing trials with gene therapy for the same. Dr. Liz Dubow graduated from Children's Hospital, Colorado. She is invested in clinical trials for developmental and epileptic encephalopathy, and she will lead our SCN8A trial. Additionally, she also has an interest in deep brain stimulation in epilepsy. That's me. I did my pediatric neurology training at the New York Presbyterian Hospital in New York, and then did my epilepsy at Children's Hospital, Michigan. I am the director of outreach services, which means I go out to neighboring counties and places where access is poor for patients with epilepsy. I am heavily involved in trials that are industry-driven in intractable epilepsy. I am also interested in ketogenic diet, healthcare costs, and outcomes. Dr. Brent O'Neill is our epilepsy neurosurgeon. He's the fellowship director for pediatric neurosurgery. He did his neurosurgery in Seattle. He's interested in developing radiofrequency ablation for patients with epilepsy, as well as general epilepsy surgery and spinal dysraphism. Meet Dr. Allison Alexander. She is a graduate of Stanford Hospital and then did her neurosurgery in Phoenix Children's Hospital. She uses electrophysiological, optogenetic, and immunohistochemical techniques to study mechanisms of epileptogenesis using human tissue obtained during surgery and mouse models of epilepsy. She's interested in focal cortical dysplasia and will be heading the Deep Brain Stimulation for Epilepsy Surgery project along with Dr. Liz Dubow. So we started off with, who are these people? This is a composite of the epileptologists that I just spoke about. Moving on, we also have our epilepsy neuropsychologists, including Dr. Greta Wilkening, Dr. Gretchen Berrios-Silvio, Dr. Richard Boada. We are all kept together by our coordinator for epilepsy, Wynn Bird, who is absolutely excellent. Additionally, Dr. Mike Handler, who is also an epilepsy surgeon, has moved to Colorado Springs, and therefore I did not talk a whole lot about him. He is definitely a presence that helps us with his experience and knowledge. We do have a ketogenic diet team that is run by our advanced practice providers, including Jen Oliver, Allison Conley, Chelsea Stillman, and we have other APPs, including Nina Robinson, Jill Kukuk. Our dietitians include Stephanie Kreitzer, Bethany Chamberlain, and I should also mention Jennifer DiSabato, who has an appointment in the college and is an assistant professor. Additionally, she works in our epilepsy monitoring unit and is a big name in transition at the American Academy of Pediatrics, as well as at the national AES level. So we talked about who are these people. We talked about what is the hospital like. We talked about what is the research footprint like. So in addition to what we do for our patients within the hospital, we have members within the epilepsy team who are the Epilepsy Foundation board members, like Dr. Kristen Park. A few of us are also on the professional advisory board of the Epilepsy Foundation of Colorado, including myself, as well as Dr. Kelly Knapp. We help to run epilepsy camps across all ages. This involves not just our MDs, but also our RNs that enthusiastically participate each year. This allows our patients and us to see a different facet of each other. Chelsea always heads over to the Ron McDonald House and at least cooks food once or twice a year. She also runs the Seizure Safety School for parents. What is the regional expertise? We have regional expertise not only within the state of Colorado, since we are the largest and the only level 4 center within the state. However, we also collaborate with physicians across state lines. We do have a second opinion consult service where we can see patients from across state lines if their insurance allows. In addition, we are also involved in collaborative management of patients, frequently from Montana, Wyoming, New Mexico, Texas, and other states. With this, I thank you and would be happy to take more questions.
All right, thank you so much.
Lauren?
I can hear you now.
Okay, fantastic. That's because I removed my headset. So I know this was for an hour, but this just wasn't enough to do for the whole hour. Yeah, so I don't know if you are able to edit the recording in any which way or not, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I'll edit the recording, so no worries. I have filler.
Okay.
I could put in, so thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. I will leave the. Now, do you want Krista to join right now or later?
She can join later. It's okay.
Okay, yeah, because she asked me to text her, so I will let her know.
Yeah, 2 o'clock's fine.
Perfect. Thank you.
Children's Hospital Colorado opened a new 15Q clinic and research facility for families searching for a cure.
I just told myself, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do everything I can to say that I've given Mila the very best shot possible.
We won't stop until these kids are speaking. We want to hear what they have to say.
I would have never thought when I started this up that it would become as big as it's become.
Everything that we've done for Mila is going to be for something much bigger than her.
We survive on hope.
Thousands of children affected by 2 rare genetic disorders now have a place to go for specialized care.
Children's Hospital Colorado opened a new 15Q clinic and research facility. Health specialist Kathy Walsh reports on this new help and hope for families searching for a cure.
2-year-old Cammie Thompson is quick to smile and laugh, but her joy is actually a symptom of Angelman syndrome, a rare, incurable neurogenetic disorder that affects the 15th chromosome.
We found out around 14 to 15 months that she was missing a piece of that chromosome.
Liz Thompson says at birth, Cammie was upset and agitated. At 4 months, Liz started noticing developmental delays.
I didn't see her engage with toys the way our first child did. She didn't hold on to things the same way.
Cammie was behind in communication and started having seizures. Genetic testing confirmed Angelman.
Hands down, worst day of my life. You think you can handle stuff until it comes to your kids.
Cammie is working on walking. She doesn't speak and has had up to 100 seizures in a day. The Thompsons turned to Children's Hospital for help.
We have a geneticist, neurologist, epileptologist.
Those specialists and 5 more, all in the new 15Q clinic for both Angelman and Dupe 15Q, another syndrome involving chromosome 15.
It really provides a medical home for these kids.
And hope. Pediatric geneticist Dr. Jessica Dewis says several companies are working on meaningful therapies.
We won't stop until these kids are speaking. We want to hear what they have to say.
We survive on hope.
Cammie's mom is an Angelman advocate and an Angelman optimist.
I think we will hear her talk one day. I think she will walk one day. I think she's going to have a really bright future.
I'm Kathy Walsh covering Colorado First.
I really like the diversity of
really bright future.
I'm Kathy Walsh covering Colorado First.
I really like the diversity of neurosurgery. There's a lot of non-operative management. There's a lot of thinking about what is the best thing to do for a patient, but also there's a lot of technical aspects, and I enjoy working with my hands. I like being in the operating room. I think epilepsy is one of the most fascinating areas of pediatric neurosurgery. Not everybody who has epilepsy is a candidate for surgery, but in those who are, it's really is one of the most rewarding parts of my job. Going from having seizures and taking meds constantly to being seizure-free can be a really amazing change. I think if I were an adult neurosurgeon, it wouldn't be nearly as fun. The patients are the best. I think I just kind of naturally am drawn to kids and to, playing and interacting with them, and that's one of the most rewarding parts of this job is to just be around kids all day, working with them.
In a world where everyone likes to go fast, the game of blitz chess
Okay, I'll play E5 right now.
fits right in.
What about this?
Griffin McConnell has just minutes to finish all of his moves.
Take the pawn.
His younger brother Sullivan
Let's put that guy already back here.
proving to be a difficult opponent.
That was so good.
But this fight is nothing compared to the battle Griffin has already overcome.
My mom had suspicion that something was wrong because I was staring off in space a lot.
At the age of just 5, Griffin was diagnosed with epilepsy, constant seizures becoming a regular part of life.
I just stopped learning because of how big my seizures were.
It was bad.
His father, Kevin, says they decided to move forward with a hemispherectomy, disconnecting one half of the brain from the other.
Everything had already transferred into the other hemisphere, which happens in children. That doesn't happen in adults.
Through it all, Griffin never stopped playing chess,
And I will win your king.
often beating so-called masters.
Children's Hospital Colorado opened a new 15Q clinic and research facility for families searching for a cure.
I just told myself, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do everything I can to say that I've given Mila the very best shot possible.
We won't stop until these kids are speaking. We want to hear what they have to say.
I would have never thought when I started this up that it would become as big as it's become.
Everything that we've done for Mila is going to be for something much bigger than her.
We survive on hope.
Thousands of children affected by 2 rare genetic disorders now have a place to go for specialized care.
Children's Hospital Colorado opened a new 15Q clinic and research facility. Health specialist Kathy Walsh reports on this new help and hope for families searching for a cure.
2-year-old Cammie Thompson is quick to smile and laugh, but her joy is actually a symptom of Angelman syndrome, a rare, incurable neurogenetic disorder that affects the 15th chromosome.
We found out around 14 to 15 months that she was missing a piece of that chromosome.
Liz Thompson says at birth, Cammie was upset and agitated. At 4 months, Liz started noticing developmental delays.
I didn't see her engage with toys the way our first child did. She didn't hold on to things the same way.
Cammie was behind in communication and started having seizures. Genetic testing confirmed Angelman.
Hands down, worst day of my life. You think you can handle stuff until it comes to your kids.
Cammie is working on walking. She doesn't speak and has had up to 100 seizures in a day. The Thompsons turned to Children's Hospital for help.
We have a geneticist, neurologist, epileptologist.
Those specialists and 5 more, all in the new 15Q clinic for both Angelman and Dupe 15Q, another syndrome involving chromosome 15.
It really provides a medical home for these kids.
And hope. Pediatric geneticist Dr. Jessica Dewis says several companies are working on meaningful therapies.
We won't stop until these kids are speaking. We want to hear what they have to say.
We survive on hope.
Cammie's mom is an Angelman advocate and an Angelman optimist.
I think we will hear her talk one day. I think she will walk one day. I think she's going to have a really bright future.
I'm Kathy Walsh covering Colorado First.
I really like the diversity of neurosurgery. There's a lot of non-operative management. There's a lot of thinking about what is the best thing to do for a patient, but also there's a lot of technical aspects, and I enjoy working with my hands. I like being in the operating room. I think epilepsy is one of the most fascinating areas of pediatric neurosurgery. Not everybody who has epilepsy is a candidate for surgery, but in those who are, it's really is one of the most rewarding parts of my job. Going from having seizures and taking meds constantly to being seizure-free can be a really amazing change. I think if I were an adult neurosurgeon, it wouldn't be nearly as fun. The patients are the best. I think I just kind of naturally am drawn to kids and to, playing and interacting with them and That's one of the most rewarding parts of this job is to just be around kids all day and working with them.
In a world where everyone likes to go fast, the game of blitz chess
Okay, I'll play E5 right now.
fits right in.
What about this?
Griffin McConnell has just minutes to finish all of his moves.
Take the pawn.
His younger brother Sullivan
Let's put that guy already back here.
proving to be a difficult opponent.
That was so good.
But this fight is nothing compared to the battle Griffin has already overcome.
My mom had suspicion that something was wrong because I was staring off in space a lot.
At the age of just 5, Griffin was diagnosed with epilepsy, constant seizures becoming a regular part of life.
I just stopped learning because of how big my seizures were.
It was bad.
His father, Kevin, says they decided to move forward with a hemispherectomy, disconnecting one half of the brain from the other.
Everything had already transferred into the other hemisphere, which happens in children. That doesn't happen in adults.
Through it all, Griffin never stopped playing chess,
And I will win your king.
often beating so-called masters
Good game.
on the 16th Street Mall.
It was a disaster all the way around. It was a disaster. It was a hurricane.
But last year, the seizures returned with a vengeance.
It was not like one and done. I had like 3 in a day.
Doctors deciding another brain surgery was the only option.
It was a little bit more dangerous. Every brain surgery becomes more dangerous. Every time they open up his head, it's a lot more dangerous, and that was a concern.
His father says there were concerns Griffin would lose speech, memory, and worst of all, the ability to play the game he loves. But the surgery went well. So well that in September, just 7 months after the surgery, 17-year-old Griffin announced plans to enter the State Blitz Championship.
Well, my reaction was, that's fine, but, temper your expectations, which he definitely did not have any anticipation of winning.
But there he was in the quarterfinals, beating one of the top players in the state.
Someone he'd never beaten and beat them.
Same thing in the semifinal, setting up a championship between Griffin and, you guessed it, his brother Sullivan.
And so I just somehow won.
He's good at blitz, but he was by no means expected to win. So it was huge.
If you look at a CT scan, you'll notice half of Griffin's brain is gone, but the pawns, rooks, and kings don't care.
Even though my disability, and I don't have half a brain, literally, I can still do this.
Showing others that anything is possible.
Your disability does not define who you are. You define who you are.
Anything's possible. Like if you work at it like enough and you have like that mindset of I'm gonna do it, you're going to. Like no matter what the disability is.
I had really good mentors when I was training, and I always enjoyed taking care of kids, and I was compelled by the illnesses that they get and by their ability to fight and recover. With the little ones, it's fun to, get down on their level and play with them and ask them about their stuffed animals and things like that. And with the older ones, it's nice to try to find something that they're interested in that you can talk about, maybe have in common. Every day there's something that gets me up and motivated, whether it's a patient who I know needs an operation that day, or whether it's doing, research stuff that I think is going to ultimately help kids, or whether it's just sort of seeing my own kid and wanting to be able to make sure that other kids can do the same things. I just want to try to do the best I can for the kids that we're seeing today, and hopefully improve things for kids we're going to see tomorrow.
This week's Denver 7 Everyday Hero reminds us you're never too young to make a difference.
She is just 12 and despite her own setbacks is already helping other kids at Children's Hospital Colorado.
I'm gonna make some of the sugar scrub.
By all accounts, Annabelle Rusko could teach most of us a thing or two about philanthropy.
This is one of our #1 sellers.
And even more about dreaming big.
This year we want to make the overall total to 30,000 hopefully, which wouldn't be that much of a jump actually.
3 years ago, she started Annabelle's annual Children's Hospital stand. With the help of Little Sis, they made and peddled bracelets, sugar scrubs, and raffle baskets, all to raise money for kids at Children's Hospital Colorado.
It's just been such a joy to get to know Annabelle, and she has such a passion for helping kids who are sick or battling cancer or mental health.
If anyone can relate, it's this 12-year-old. You see, Anna was born with a rare and painful genetic disease that causes bony tumors to grow in her body. So far, she's had 9 surgeries.
So back in 2018, I had to have 3 surgeries. And I had to stay inpatient because it was a hip surgery. So during that time, it was only like 2 days. But I saw a lot of kids that were worse off in the hospital than me. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
Her first year in business, she raised $1,800. Neighbor Lawrence Nee was so impressed, his company, Larch Industry, agreed to match it.
And it's like, holy cow, if she's that selfless, you know, this is the least we can do.
At the time, Lawrence had no idea his young son would end up at Children's for seizures.
We had found out, I think it was about 1.5 years ago, around November time frame, that he had a condition called ESES. Sorry.
Lawrence went on to say if it weren't for those doctors at Children's, they may have never found a treatment. So this effort, a kid caring so much for kids she's never met, it is such a gift.
This year, you know, I guess half's going to the neurology department, which means a lot for our family.
To date, Annabelle has raised more than $17,000. This year, she wants to double that.
It doesn't seem real, honestly. Like I would have never thought when I started this up that it would become as big as it's become, honestly. So yeah, it's really cool.
Really cool, indeed.
We are so impressed by what you've done for kids at the hospital and all you've gone through. On behalf of Denver 7 and American Financing, we want to honor you as a 7 Everyday Hero. Congratulations!
Of all of the organ systems in the body, I think the brain is the most complicated and the thing that we know least about. Getting to work on the brain and getting to study the brain and getting to treat people with disorders of the brain, I feel very blessed to be able to do that. I feel like as a neurosurgeon, I have the privilege to be able to actually take concrete action for whatever problem it is that I'm faced with. I have the privilege of taking care of kids who are going through tough times, and I get to be someone who helps them through that. One of the things I do most commonly is epilepsy surgery. For those kids whose seizures we can stop, they have a whole lifetime now ahead of them where they can be seizure-free, where they can drive, they can get a job without worrying about having a seizure during the middle of the day, and just that knowledge that not just right now, but their whole life has been improved is really special. I couldn't imagine a better job.
I'm compassionate to my families. I really do care about the kids' well-beings as well as the family's state of mind. I try to understand what their fears are, what they're going through, what concerns they have, and I try to address that. I try to empower the families also with knowledge in terms of what to expect, what their options are. When there's actually someone who reacts well to a treatment and are able to progress and improve in their schooling, in their behavior, and in their interactions with friends and family, that's really rewarding. It gives me quite a lot of satisfaction just to know that I've made a difference. That's something I try to foster with my children in terms of what they want to do for the rest of their lives. I say, Just love what you're going to do. Just feel like you're satisfied each day, and that makes you a successful person.
A mother in Boulder didn't give up when her daughter was diagnosed with a terminal disease. And it's a good thing she kept up that fight, because this little girl could change the future of medicine. 9-year-old Mila is the first person ever to have an FDA-approved drug created just for her. It's helping treat a disease so rare, doctors only know of 6 other kids in the U.S. who have it. Our Dominic Garcia met Mila and shows us how this drug is already making a difference.
This little girl has a rare type of what's called Batten disease. Before, it would have been unheard of to make a medicine for something so rare. But in this case, experts were able to make a treatment just for this girl, a first in the world.
Yeah. There we go. You got it.
9-year-old Mila is one special girl.
Good morning, Mila.
In fact, she is the only person in the world who has ever had a drug specifically made for them.
It seems that her drug has done an amazing job at stopping some of her symptoms, but really honestly slowing other symptoms.
Symptoms of Batten disease, a fatal neurodegenerative condition.
They lose their ability to see, they lose their ability to communicate eventually, to walk, and control their muscles. They also start to develop severe seizures. And ultimately, it's a fatal condition.
She was diagnosed 3 years ago at Children's Hospital, Colorado, but her mom, Julia Vita-Rebel, refused to give up.
I just told myself, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try to raise money, and I'm going to try to put the right scientists together and just at least do everything I can to say that I've given Mila the very best shot possible.
She read any and everything she could get her hands on, fundraised, reached out to person after person, and finally met Dr. Timothy Yu at Boston Children's Hospital.
He called me the next day and just said, look, we're going to do everything we can to find this. And he did.
In less than a year, they had it, a drug named after the little girl it was meant to help, Millicent.
The fact that this happened within a year is absolutely astounding, and that it's just for one person.
Mila is now being treated back at Children's Hospital, Colorado. And while her symptoms have gotten better, her future is still unclear. Treatment may have come too late.
I don't know what's going to happen with Mila. I'm reminded every single day how lucky we were that stars aligned for Mila.
And that's huge because it opens the door for more children to be treated.
There's a route that we can now go for to be able to make this more accessible to more people.
Future Milas that hopefully are diagnosed earlier can come in and then, eventually be able to have a treatment, based on Mila's.
So Mila's mom has created Mila's Miracle Foundation. They are gathering funds to establish a team here at Children's Hospital, Colorado to start providing more treatments to kids like Mila across a number of diseases. We have information on that at cbsdenver.com. In Aurora, Dominic Garcia covering Colorado First.
It was what I felt was a good match for me in terms of balancing curiosity and discovery with patient care, where I thought that there were always going to be interesting things to discover. I've always been interested in rare diseases, and I've always been interested in how seizures affect development. Rett syndrome is kind of the perfect match for how that came together. As much as possible, I try to address the child as part of the visit. You need to respect their autonomy. I look at them, I ask them why they are there, then I turn to the parents and get the story. And that's especially true for my Rett patients. The first impression of somebody who meets them is they might not think that they really understand what's going on with the visit. I think they do understand what's going on. So it's very important to address them, to talk to them directly, make eye contact with them, because they're part of the visit. Being part of their care has been an honor and a privilege.
I realized Maxwell had never used his hands. He had never held a rattle. He wasn't interested in the world around him. He wasn't touching our face or trying to grab at my earrings.
The mice that have that mutation have compatible symptoms with what we see in people with SLC6A1 related disease. So what that allows us to do is to see if treatments for the condition change the course of the disease in mice, and if they appear to be safe in mice.
It is a race against the clock. With the onset of seizures, if your brain is misfiring, you lose all of that developmental time. And while your brain is seizing, a lot of kids suffer regression and start losing the skills they fought so hard to gain.
People like Amber who have the motivation and the capability to do things like this, I really believe that that paves the way for other therapies in the future and has benefits that go far beyond her son.
For the most part, I specialize in an epilepsy syndrome called DRAVET syndrome, which is a genetic epilepsy. The seizures are horrible, and so that's part of my motivation, is wanting to do something to fix that. We're treating the whole family because the whole family is affected by this diagnosis, and I think what they're most concerned about is their children's whole life and how this affects their life, how it affects their family's life, and just how to make things better. Most people think that there's no way to treat children with epilepsy, and I guess I probably took on that challenge and thought, there must be something better and that there's something that we can do here. The most important thing is I listen to their stories. Families want somebody to hear them, and for me, it's really important to hear their story because oftentimes the details to the diagnosis is buried in there, and having a proper diagnosis leads to better treatment. So it's nice to be able to step in and offer a little bit of hope in there, because very rarely have we tried everything.